The last place I wanted to be was Frostnipistan.
This one's wife, Harry, is simply the influencer's husband. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Let us consider for a moment Prince Harry. Hitherto, he was largely well regarded by many members of the public. He had the reputation of being the playboy prince, a more relaxed version of William, who had the heavy mantle of one day becoming king, whereas Harry, as the spare, had more opportunity to be less rigid, to be friendlier, less concerned with protocol. He injected a bit of fun. He also garnered considerable sympathy, as did William, as a consequence of the fact that they both lost their mother, Diana, Princess of Wales, in tragic circumstances at a young age. Harry was protected within the royal family. The men in grey suits ensured that he knew where he had to be, what he had to do, and then his charm, for he does have it, and his friendliness could then be utilised. And he took a genuine interest in a number of different charities that he was involved in. It gave him purpose, and as many people have stated, he was often at his most content and happy when he was involved in those charities in Africa. Undoubtedly, there were resentments. He has had a long-standing hatred of the media as a consequence of his belief, whether rightly or wrongly, that it contributed or caused to the death of his mother, and also the fact that he has lived his life in a goldfish bowl, perhaps failing to understand that that's the trade-off. As a member of the royal family, people are going to take an interest in you, and as a consequence of living a privileged life, you have to expect that there's going to be commentary about you. Harry is an immature individual, an individual with strong narcissistic traits, but he does exhibit emotional empathy. And this was seen regularly in the past. But where is he now? Well, Hadley Freeman, writing in the Times, states, "In my local park, the cherry trees have bloomed, which means the swarms have arrived, not of insects, but a species even more bothersome, influencers. There they stand, young women posing oh so spontaneously beneath the photogenic trees. Just as the blossom brings the influencer, so the influencer brings the influencer husband. He patiently takes photos of his beloved and exists to help her promote her brand. Never mind writing sonnets. This is how a man expresses his devotion today. And, thanks to the strange quirks of history, the most famous influencer husbands in the world are Prince Harry and Alec Baldwin. Let us start with Harry, who has just had a very dramatic week, although it's getting difficult to remember when Harry last had an undramatic week. As you may have read, he and Princesa of Lesotho resigned last week from Sentebale, the charity they founded in 2006 in memory of their mothers to support children in Lesotho affected by AIDS. Everything about this story is sad, and it's also sad to remember when Harry was best known for this kind of thing, rather than what he's known for now. I'm old enough to remember 2005, when photos of Harry in a Nazi costume were splashed across British front pages, and, spurred on by that scandal, he began to search for some meaning in his life and a life outside Britain. He spent more time in Zimbabwe with his then-girlfriend Chelsea Davy, always clearly the most fun of all his girlfriends. He co-founded Sentebale. His unit was deployed to Afghanistan. A few years later, he founded the Invictus Games for wounded servicemen. Well, he didn't found it, did he? He was involved in it. It was an idea that was presented to him. But anyway, putting that point to one side, this period, 2006 to 17, was peak Harry, the proactive, charity-focused, teasing Usain Bolt, sending comedy videos to the Obamas Harry. He also had a loving relationship with his brother and father, and seeing Charles, once the human embodiment of emotional constipation, fondly embrace his sons at the London Olympics warmed even the most Republican of hearts. All that bad blood from Diana and Charles's brutal divorce, followed by Diana's even more brutal death, finally under the bridge. Yet, here we are now. In 2023, Sophie Chandauka was made chair of Sentebale, and things went swiftly south, to the point that the princes and the trustees have all resigned, and Chandauka has accused them of misogynoir. One of the trustees told The Times that the fault lay with Chandauka's almost dictatorial style of governing. Chandauka, however, said that the toxicity of Harry's brand had hindered the charity and alleged that last year his team asked her to defend this one's wife after negative media coverage. I said no, we're not setting a precedent by which we become an extension of the Sussex PR machine. The Charity Commission is investigating, but given how dependent Sentebale was on Harry's popularity, it is a sad reflection of how much that has now fallen if some want him out. There is a bleak irony to Harry losing Sentebale so soon after the release of Netflix's much-derided series with Love, Meghan. No need to pick over the carcass of this one's wife's attempt to join the influencer economy, but if Harry left Britain to find a meaningful life, is this really what he envisaged? Smiling vaguely in Monty Shitshow as his Nepo wife ties ribbons to plastic baggies of nuts in front of a camera crew? Surely it was more fun to muck about in Botswana than watch his wife express herself with crudités. The Invictus Games were held in February, so the next ones aren't until 2027. Without Sentebale, Harry's fast becoming just an influencer husband, a prop in this one's wife's aspirational but relatable but actually aspirational content. Meanwhile, Harry has fallen out so badly with his family that he reportedly didn't even know his father was in hospital for side effects from his cancer treatment until it was on the news. The influencer husband, like the trad wife, poses the question, how much dignity should you sacrifice for love? And thus, Harry has now been relegated to the position of the influencer's husband. What does he do at Better Up? Very little. The Invictus Games has been taken over by his wife. We saw that in Vancouver and in Whistler. We saw how she did the same in Dusseldorf a couple of years ago. She has been promoting her As Ever brand, her ridiculous cookery and craft show, and all the while, what's Harry left with? Ostracised from family and friends, never having met his father-in-law or his half-siblings-in-law. His wife courting the celebrity lifestyle, turning up in Gwyneth Paltrow's kitchen. But what of Harry? Occasionally he appears in one of her videos that she puts on Instagram. Occasionally he might be heard saying that it's recording. You might just catch a glimpse of him in the background of something, as she is ensuring that she is at the centre of it all. He complained about being the spare in the royal family. He's very much become the spare in his own marriage. And what is his role now? This is demonstrative of what happens when a narcissist gets hold of somebody. The narcissist takes, the victim gives. The victim gives up their independence and becomes reliant upon the narcissist. The victim gives up friendships, family relationships, money, work, dignity, self-esteem, and the narcissist takes them all. The narcissist separates people from their family, as has been the case with Harry, prevents him from meeting other members of the family, removes him from his friends, and takes him to a place that is alien to him. Introduces him to a lifestyle which is completely at odds with the one that he has experienced. And then, fully embracing that lifestyle herself, leaves him in the dust as the one thing that he does understand, charity, burns down around his ears. Why? Because of her behaviour. He finds himself having gone from a relatively popular member, perhaps one of the most popular members of the royal family, to his popularity having tanked. And it all occurred as a consequence of the woman that he married. He's lost his family. He's lost his friends. He's lost his popularity. He's lost direction with regard to what he's to do. And now he's losing his charities. Sentebale has fallen into disarray. and with allegations that are causing significant problems for him and this one's wife. Will the Invictus Games be next? Questions have already been asked about Harry's continued involvement in that particular charitable endeavour. We are aware that this one's wife was sent home as a consequence of her overshadowing matters in the recent games that took place in Canada. What might happen to Wellchild? Will they distance themselves from Harry as a consequence of this mounting toxicity? As Hadley Freeman points out, what has he been left with? The narcissist takes and drains and absorbs and leeches. The typical behaviour of the narcissist as a consequence of that absence of emotional empathy, the necessity of taking what is yours and making it theirs, the absence of boundary recognition, the sense of entitlement, the absence of accountability for such actions, time and time again. The narcissist does this, only now we've seen it played out on a world stage as a consequence of the infamy of this one's wife and the fame of Prince Harry. And now he finds himself simply the influencer's husband, relegated to such a role of ridicule, holding the camera and occasionally appearing in her productions. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.